Welcome in to the Monday Morning Quarterback UK with your boys Ben, Kriski, Dami and Bids. We good?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, I'm doing good.
All good, can't complain.
Yeah, feeling good. What's new? Anything new, boys?
I squatted 120 this week.
Did you?
Yeah.
And how was that?
Really skinny ass legs.
That knee held up?
The knee held up. The physio's coming to an end. Hopefully, no more ACLs gone. Hopefully.
I joined the gym this week.
I don't believe it.
I did.
You don't need a gym. All you need is open roads.
No,
fields.
I've signed up for an Ironman, so
Of course you have.
So
of course you have.
I need to be in the pool, cycling, strength.
Oh, okay, so it's more swimming.
Oh, it's all of them. So it's 4K swim,
Yeah.
180k on the bike, and then a marathon.
Okay.
Wow.
All in one day. So in Portugal, so nice and warm.
Oh,
at least.
nice.
But yeah.
When's that?
Wait, hold
It's
on.
over.
You sure you don't want Dami to do the swimming leg?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
man.
my new swimming coach. He's Dami, yeah.
I
You
don't-
almost drowned in a ball pit the other day.
I don't need to swim. I don't want to swim. Keep me away from a pool.
That
I'm
ball
good.
pit nearly took you out.
I was having a great time in the ball pit, though. I was having a
English
great time.
loves going on holiday with you.
Jeez.
No hiking, no swimming.
Yeah, man. Just there reading my book. I'm good.
You're good, yeah.
I love a good book, man.
Fair enough.
What are you reading right now?
Black and British. The
Oh,
one that
yeah,
you,
yeah,
the
yeah.
one that you told me to read.
Had
Yeah,
it for about 2 years, never read it. I will though.
yeah. After I've read it,
You recommended him a book that you haven't read.
Nah, he saw it on the counter and he just said, "Can I take this?" I said,
It's actually L's book.
"Yeah, man, only Black British."
Oh my.
Right. What are we talking about today?
So today's episode is going to be all about season roundup for the 2022 season.
Nice.
We'll go through AFC, NFC, key points from the season, and just get into some stuff.
So, any burning questions, Bids, before we dive in around the AFC, NFC?
How do they split the divisions?
Ben.
So there's a north, south, east, west from each division, and generally you're split up by location in the country. That's the theory behind it. Obviously teams move around, so for example Oakland have moved, the Oakland Raiders are now in Vegas, so that does slightly change things from a geographical standpoint, but in general you have AFC South, NFC South, AFC North, NFC North, and in theory you're centered around that rough cluster, but it gets pretty loose because teams move.
yeah.
It looks complicated. I can't get my head around it. I don't see why they don't just swap it and just do east and west.
I mean,
Yeah.
Surely that makes everyone's life
The bit
easier.
that I thought about the other day was, wouldn't it be interesting, just every 5 years, just throw everyone in the hat and then mix them around a little bit. And then you're not playing with the same, you've not got the same three other teams in your division.
you say that, but one of the big things is about division rivalries, because you play those same teams twice a year.
Yeah.
A lot of teams set up their rosters based on, in a way, who's in their division. So if you've got, for example, Steelers and Ravens, historically those two teams have always been really hard-hitting defensive teams. They're set up that way deliberately to try and counter the way their other teams operate, and that's just their culture as franchises, and they're always having these really heavy battles. Like in this season, they had a really close, heavy battle with some interesting quarterback play, which we'll potentially get into later, but really hard-hitting teams. So
But
you
surely
set up
that
a
makes
team.
his point even better then. Like every 10 years you just mix it up and then them teams are just mismatched.
Yeah.
But you design your team for years
Exactly.
in
Yeah.
advance,
Exactly.
so it just messes with your whole.
Exactly.
It's
You don't have wild card weekend. How about wild card season?
Yeah,
I mean, that would be rough.
yeah.
That would be rough.
I mean, it would just change the way you structured your teams and your roster. Like it would massively change the way you did that.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Just-
can email Roger Goodell, see what he's got to say on the subject.
I know him, we go way back.
I don't think he's going to respond. Imagine he responds. I
Raj, what you say?
don't think.
Big Raj.
I don't think he's going to respond.
Okay.
But that's That's
Okay. Understood. Kind of.
Understood.
kind of.
Whether we agree.
Nah, I disagree. I'll set up
That's
differently.
fair.
Like, I'll set up my own franchise.
Yeah.
Well, you've now got the XFL. You've got the XFL. No?
Which is?
It's basically an alternative league. Basically, in a similar kind of way, you know how the D League works in basketball. So you've got like the developmental league.
Yeah.
You've kind of got the XFL, which is like not as good of players, maybe who weren't quite good enough to make it in the NFL, would try in the XFL, which got slightly different rules. Dwayne Rock Johnson's really big in the XFL.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's just, I think he's just bought a team there. And
Yeah, he does,
I mean, he might even be on like the board for that now.
Oh, really?
I'm 100%
I thought you were
sure.
gonna say he's a player. Get it?
Yeah, it's just,
He was a pretty good
the kid from Young
Yeah,
Rock to play him.
Yeah. What position did he play? Was he on the D line?
I think
yeah,
he
he
was
would have
D-line,
been a D-line.
I think he was on the D-line, but I'm
Yeah.
not 100% sure. But so you have like players who couldn't quite make it in the NFL play in either the Canadian League or in the XFL, and then try and distinguish themselves. There's a couple of players who played in the XFL who are now back playing in the league.
Taylor Heineke.
Taylor Heineke's one. You've got a quarterback who's like 36, who's just been all over the place. I think he's now back in the league as just a backup. But it's how you get back into the league, is proving your skills. It's all about film, right? We spoke about it in the previous episode about getting film and getting yourself out there and getting your name out there.
Okay.
And that's one way of doing it, particularly because now the Rock's so heavily involved in the XFL, you might well see some players moving who may even just be backups or practice squad players in the NFL moving to the XFL just to give themselves an opportunity.
Okay. Is it broadcast anywhere?
I haven't seen any games broadcast, but it might be broadcast in America because it's not going to be broadcast here.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
But I imagine they'll be broadcast there. They broadcast everything over there.
Yeah.
Everything's paid for. Everything's broadcast.
It'd be interesting to see if the European leagues at some point can be another kind of escape for them. Well, not escape, but you know what I mean. Another sort of challenge to then
Another
getting back
option.
into the route of NFL. But
It's just nowhere near.
or we could get our own division.
A European division?
That would be wild.
Yeah, I mean, they've already tried that.
There are
It
rumours.
didn't work well.
Yeah,
with
it
the
didn't work
Jags.
well.
Oh, okay.
The Jags tried.
That's
that.
not. Well, the Jags tried to set up a team in.
Well, the theory was that what they were trying to move towards was having a London-based team, and the theory was that it could be the Jags in London, and it didn't. Yeah, it bombed. Hasn't really worked that way. They had like a 5-year deal where they played every year.
Yeah.
That's why you always saw the Jags.
Yeah. Okay,
think that's
but
up.
how feasible is that European league? Like, obviously, take years and years to build up, but
I think that's the thing.
you have to build stadiums that big enough to handle. I don't know what 80,000+ people.
But I mean, the Spurs Stadium can handle both
Well,
sports.
That's one.
Yeah,
But they're starting to do it in
Actually,
Germany.
yeah. But and also, there's Tottenham Stadium is a purpose-built stadium,
Yeah.
isn't it?
But you'll start getting that if
Yeah.
the sport picks up. It's like they purpose built it because you've seen how they've done it. They've got 2 fields.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The NFL's field is just underneath, and they just switch it out. Speaking of switching stadiums, one of the wildest things I've ever seen was Staples Center, because Staples Center, they play Clippers, they play they obviously play the Lakers there, they play the LA Kings there, which is an ice hockey team.
Oh, really?
And then they play the LA Sparks at the which is the women's basketball team.
Right.
So at one point they had a crossover of three teams. So you had the Clippers one night, Lakers another night, and then you had the LA Kings playing again. That was whilst they were in their playoff season period. So overnight, both nights they had to switch the whole stadium to an ice hockey. There's a video of it on YouTube. It's amazing. Like how they just changed the whole stadium. It was cool.
I think
Anyway,
logistics.
It looks cool. Off topic, but it looks cool.
Let's get on topic. Who's
Yeah.
starting? AFC, NFC.
AFC?
Yeah, let's start with the AFC. So, in the AFC, the preseason favourites for the 1 seed, the Bills, they came top of the AFC East. The Dolphins came second, the Patriots third, and the Jets, who started off pretty well, they ended up reverting back to type and finishing last in the AFC East.
You say that, but they had a really good year.
They had a good season, and then it kind of just all fell. It all fell down when Mike White got injured.
I mean, it fell down when Mike White got injured. When they started the season, no one thought Mike White was even going to play.
Yeah.
It was all Zach Wilson, that
Yeah.
ropey BYU guy.
No, but the thing is, Zach Wilson, he played okay for a couple of games. Joe Flacco came in. He played good for a couple of games. They won 3 games in a row with Joe Flacco. And then Mike White came in. He was doing okay. He got absolutely destroyed by Matt Milano in the Bills game. Broke his ribs in like 3 places. There's a quite funny story that that White, he went to 10 different doctors to try and get sign off to play in a game.
With broken ribs.
Yeah, and none of them would sign him off.
Heard about that.
Surely he's gasping as he's talking. Can I get signed up?
I heard about that. You've got to imagine that the 10th doctor's like, Yeah, Steve just called me last week.
Yeah.
There's no way that you're playing
Just
that.
end up going down
Give me
the
a-
corridor
alright,
hall,
I'll
just
give you one
knocking that
test.
door, that door.
Put your hands up.
Just scream. Yeah, and then Zach Wilson came back in, and it just the season just fell off the cliff.
If they redrafted that class, do you think Zach Wilson goes as high?
No, but the thing is, you wouldn't. Do you have the hindsight?
Yeah.
No, probably not. I don't know. Justin Fields should have gone higher.
He should have got. I would
He
say.
should have gone higher.
What did he go?
12 in the end.
I think he was the third or the fourth?
Fourth, I think, because then
Quarterback to go.
Matt Jones went after him, I think.
Yeah.
My boy McCorkle.
I just, yeah, I'm not sure about that with Zach Wilson. The thing is also, there could not be really a worse place to go than the Jets.
Yeah.
The ownership of the Jets is crazy. Excuse me, there's a lot of stuff going on there. I think it's often spoken about is landing spot for quarterbacks is really, really important. Like Mahomes just got the ideal scenario. Sit behind Alex Smith, an experienced quarterback. You've got Andy Reid, who's one of the best coaches in the league. He just sat for like 2 years, learned everything. It was like Aaron Rodgers under Favre. He didn't start for like 3 years. So you just get an ultimate learning experience under one of the best quarterbacks they've ever had. Obviously, the breakup at the end with Favre was a bit interesting, and then he went to the Vikings, which was one of the main competitors. But he then took over, having had 2-3 years experience. So it's and he didn't have that. When you have to go in and start, like Justin Fields was pretty much going to start straight away. Mitch Trubisky was there, but I mean, Mitch Trubisky's mid.
Yeah.
But it shows it can be done because you look at Joe Burrow, Cincinnati. He went down first year, and then he's.
But how big a deal is that? That doesn't really happen.
No, it doesn't. But
But it's a good point. But like, it doesn't really happen all that much. That you come in, you start, and you turn a franchise around
that quickly.
Yeah, the Bengals are were like a 3-win franchise under Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
He comes in, takes over, and just turns the team around.
Is he that good?
He's that guy.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
He is that guy.
People are talking like who's going to be the best quarterback over the next decade, and Burrow or Mahomes, and that's a legitimate conversation now, and that's why the postseason was such a big deal for the 2022 season.
Why isn't BCB in the conversation?
Oh, here we go.
We'll leave
Here
that.
we go.
We're talking about AFC at the moment.
So for everyone's benefit, BCB is Brock Purdy. His nickname that will not be mentioned. Nickname will not be mentioned. Mr. Irrelevant. Yeah, we'll get into Mr.
We'll get, and we'll also get into the
MVP.
Bengals as well.
Anyway, you've done a roundup of the first division.
Of the Jets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And then moving on to the AFC West. So the Chiefs won AFC West as per usual.
Nice.
Then the Chargers came second with the 10-7 record. The Raiders 6-11, and then lastly the Broncos, massively disappointing season, 5-12, even with the new acquisition of Russell Wilson.
I think was the biggest shot, wasn't it? That Russell just did not adapt at all. He was just such a disappointment.
Because he had the weapons on offense, and they had a great defense as well. So there was no reason for them not to do well.
Pre-season, there were legitimate conversations about the Broncos winning that division, and that was a very real conversation.
Yeah, and there was legitimate conversation about the Chargers too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the Raiders.
100%. It was. People were saying this division could go any which way.
Was that the best division?
It was seen as probably the tightest division. Yeah, because of all the acquisitions in the off season. So like I could just name a few. So Devontae Adams to the Raiders from the Packers.
Oh, the Packers.
There was also Randy Gregory in free agency to the Broncos.
Yeah, that was big.
What others ones that were quite big? Also, Russell Wilson to the Broncos. Nathaniel Hackett as a new coach. Who wasn't he the offensive coordinator or the quarterback coach at the Packers? And he had that great relationship with Rodgers, and that's why everyone thought that Rodgers was going to the Broncos.
That
didn't happen.
I bet his guy didn't do that now.
It'd be interesting to see what the Broncos do in the off-season, because they've literally traded away their future, gambling on Wilson.
You have to ride with him now.
Yeah, you have to.
The cap hit. The cap.
Let's ride.
That's right. The cap hit is just impossible. You can't move off him unless you trade him. And who's going to take him at this point? You're going to lose so much on what you got for him. You have to try and find a way of making it work, really.
Yeah.
At this point.
It'll be interesting.
I can't remember how much it was guaranteed, but it's a $250 million contract.
And a lot of that was guaranteed. His cap hit is crazy. I don't know the exact figure, but it's unmovable. You have to trade him. You can't just drop him. It's not an option.
We're gonna have to get into contract at some point because I don't get all this guaranteed. Is it bonuses and?
Well, you get a signing bonus. When you join, you get like a signing bonus. It's the same in a lot of American sports, and in most sports, to be honest, you get a signing bonus. Sign fee, just a nice little sweetener. And then you get kind of the length of your contract, the amount of money that contract is worth. You then get an annual salary for each of the years that you're working or on that contract. But you also get guaranteed money. The thing is, injuries are so common in the NFL that if you get injured, you don't get paid because they can get rid of you unless it's a guaranteed money.
And they'll tend to manipulate a lot of these long-term contracts to then free up cap space elsewhere. So then you'll see people like Mahomes on that
great example.
But if they
massive deal.
How can they just get rid of you? Surely they have to pay you out the rest of your contract.
Depends what the guarantee is. And
that's why guaranteed money is so important.
Yeah,
that's wild.
That's why guaranteed money is so important. It's only if you're there playing and on the roster that you're going to get that kind of money. They can drop you. They can cut you short. That's why that's why you balance up guaranteed money when you're a quarterback. You balance it up. Do I want the guaranteed money or do I back myself and say I'm going to be a good quarterback, I'm going to play and I don't get injured that much, so therefore don't give me the guaranteed money, but that means the contract itself could be larger. Guaranteed money costs the team more, is more of a risk for them. So you go guaranteed money, but your total salary is going to be less because we're giving you that guarantee.
Yeah.
It's like saying I'll give you 50 million now or 100 million in a year's time. It's like, okay, but 50 million now would be quite nice.
Yeah.
It's that kind of balance.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got off topic, but AFC West was very interesting.
Yeah, it was. Moving on to the AFC North. So the Bengals won the division with a 12-4 record. The Ravens finished second at 10-7. The Steelers 9-8. Yet another season for Mike Tomlin without losing. Yeah. And then the Browns finished 7-10. Despite Deshaun Watson coming back in the last few weeks of the season. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Bengals had an unbelievable back half of the season.
Yes, they did. Yeah. Yeah. They had a ropey start to the season, and then they came back. However, what happens if Lamar Jackson doesn't go down? Because the Ravens were top of the division when Lamar went down. And I feel that's changed everything. In
my opinion, I think the Bengals still take it because they had to play each other. Yeah. And I think it would have gone down to that last game. And I think Burrow wins it.
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing as well was people were questioning the offensive line for the Bengals. And that was really their problem was the offensive line. And their defense wasn't really around stars. You know, a lot of defenses have big stars, whereas the Bengals is just a collective unit that works hard together. None of them are real stars. They're just all playing at a high level now. Start of the season, not 100%. Offensive line, not 100%. And Joe Burrow's just back from an injury. Like he's now playing well. He got back into it. Offensive line, and then it just took a few games, and then they just started blowing everyone out. Just playing unbelievably well. They're a better team than the Ravens. I think that's clear.
Yeah. I would agree, but it still would have been good to see Lamar healthy for a full season.
100%. But that's part of him now.
Yeah.
Right? That's something you have to consider now. Is he that guy?
Isn't his backup like Lamar Jr.?
Well, he's a very similar type of player, just nowhere near as good.
Tyler Huntley.
Just nowhere near as good.
Tyler Huntley is terrible. He's not terrible. That's harsh. Yeah. But he just doesn't have that decision making, that quick. Just I see the pass, I'm going to throw it. It's just never that quick, and he doesn't have the legs. He's not as quick. It's just all a lot worse, and teams
pick up on that. B-Tech version.
Definitely B-Tech version.
Yeah.
Definitely
pretty much
version, yeah, for sure.
And then moving on to the last division in the AFC South. So the Jaguars won 9-8, taking the title from the Titans. The Titans finished second.
That's a record that came third in the AFC North.
Yep. There's a lot to get into. There's a lot.
I've got another question coming as well.
That's all I can say. The Titans finished second with 7-10 record. Colts finished 4-12, and the Texans finished with 3-13.
There's my next question. What's the worst record a team has had? Is it just
0-16?
Oh, I'm sure
the Browns were 0-16. Not that. I mean, it's sometime in the last 20 years the Browns were 0-16.
Yeah, it's not. It's not something that's never happened before.
Yeah.
Some teams just have really bad seasons.
They should just dissolve. That's a wrap.
Some teams have
You
really,
gotta give up.
really weak general management
Yeah.
and don't draft well.
It's quite common for teams to have 1 or 2 winning seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting division as well. The Titans just fell off.
Yeah, they fell off.
That run defense is for real.
Yeah.
That pass defense is dodgy.
Yeah.
That pass defense is really dodgy,
really
and they just have nothing on offense. They got rid of AJ Brown.
Yeah, their best wide receiver.
You were winning the division, and they got rid of AJ Brown. It's one of the weirdest decisions I think I've seen. You're about to win your division, and then you just fall off a cliff after you get rid of AJ Brown. It's bizarre to me. Tannehill gets injured, and they start just cycling in quarterbacks and hoping for the best. They're just poor. Jags are for real as well.
Yeah,
I like that. I like the Jags coming into the end of the season. They were very impressive.
Yeah.
That 9-8 record is not justifiable.
Yeah.
That is a real team.
Yeah, and I think Doug Peterson coming in, working with Trevor Lawrence, I think next season they're probably going to be a 12-win team, maybe an 11-win team for sure.
I think at least.
Yeah, because I'm not going to lie, this AFC South is weak.
I think
the Colts and the Texans is weak.
Yeah.
So
there's this very serious debate about who the quarterback for the Titans is going to be next year. Is it even going to be Tannehill?
yeah, your boy Money Tannehill.
Tannehill? I don't know about
That's
that.
your boy right there.
That's not my guy. I don't know that guy.
Well, the thing is, the Texans are quite high up in terms of draft picks. So in terms of if they're able to draft a good quarterback,
Oh, who are they even going to take? Your boy Stetson.
No, CJ Stroud is the rumour, but even they're advising him to stay at college for another year.
Well, that's the thing. Well, that's the interesting thing. Do you remember when Trevor Lawrence came out of the draft and people were saying, "Are you sure you want to go to the Jags?"
Yeah.
Like, are you sure about this?
I think the same conversation happened with Burrow as well. They were like, "Why don't you pull an Eli and just sack off the Bengals?
Yeah.
You're not going to go." And then
but he's done it, and Trevor Lawrence has done it as well.
That was a question I saw the other day. Interestingly, if you got the worst record team in the NFL and then played him against the best college team, who do you think wins?
Surely NFL
Obviously,
wins.
the NFL team.
But I'm just saying.
So wait, the worst team in the AFC, because I can't see the NFC stats.
I think it was
It's the Texans.
Yeah.
Will the Texans beat Georgia?
Yes.
Do you reckon?
Yes.
Oh, I'm not sure about that.
See,
You're
I'm
not sure?
Yes.
Because clearly the Texans aren't either got great players or they just coach poorly. Whereas the Georgia Bulldogs, the standard of players probably weren't that high, but they're going to be coached very well and very well drilled. So that's where I'm like, do they beat them on how well they're coached?
It's not even close. I cannot even say how.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
Ben settled this. End of discussion.
I'd like to see a poll.
Shut that.
Okay, let's have a look at the results of the Texans towards the end of the season. Okay, I just want to so we talk in perspective of the teams that the Texans played and the results that they achieved. Bearing in mind, we're talking about this is a professional American football team and they won 3 games. I hear what you're saying.
Would
they compete? In my opinion, you're wrong. Now, how I would back that up. Okay, end of the season, what did the Texans achieve? Who did they play? So they ended their season playing the Colts.
Oh yeah, great example.
Okay, we'll go back. So they lost to the Jags. So they lost to the Jags 13-6. Jags one of the better teams at the end of the season. They lost to the Chargers 34-24. They lost to the Bears in Chicago 23-20. They lost to the Broncos 16-9. And the Colts they tied. They tied with the Colts. Raiders they got beaten a bit. Titans when the Titans were playing pretty well 17-10. They lost to the Eagles. Okay, the Eagles being the best team in football based on record.
Yep.
We're talking about sack record. We'll talk about that later. 29-17. They lost by 12 points to the best team in the NFL.
But
underdog
magic. I don't care.
The thing for me is think about it like this. We spoke about in a previous episode about less than 1% of college players get drafted into the NFL. Now, even if you take the assumption that large numbers of that Georgia team could be drafted, there are many of them who would not even be drafted. Think about that. They wouldn't even get to the NFL.
Okay, I'm going to put an English Football League spin on this. An under-23s team in an academy they typically do get played in cup competitions against Premier League, Championship League teams, and it has happened. So on that basis, it can happen.
But you're saying that the NFL.
NFL is the Premier League,
and then
college is the under 23s. Because 1% of those make it into a professional game.
But that's not really what we're talking about, because in the NFL you get coaching, you get significantly better when you're in the league. We spoke about in a previous episode about wide receivers and how much better they get when they're in their second season. That happens quite often, and in various positions that's quite common. Coming in and playing in your first season is a big achievement. Really, if you're drafted in the first 2 rounds, you'd probably expect to be playing a lot of minutes in your first season. Outside of that, you're probably not playing that many minutes. So even the drafted players out of Georgia, assuming that they go anywhere in the draft, many of them won't be going in the first 2 rounds, probably wouldn't even be playing on the team until they even understood how to play in that league. In my opinion, the spread on that game would be like 25-30 points in favour of the Texans.
I'll make it happen. So.
I would love to see it. I would love to see
Man
it.
with his crazy ideas.
They would never let it happen because those are boys playing against men.
Yeah, I get that.
And also, if the boys win,
you're playing. Just imagine. You've seen some of the Georgia players and some of the college players. They're big guys. Can you imagine some of the NFL players hitting some of these players in the college game? They would be hurting them. It would be brutal.
Yeah.
And even the Texans, we knock on the Texans, but I just went through some of their results. You know, they kept it close in a lot of these games. You know, they lost to the Chiefs by 6 points.
Yeah.
The Chiefs.
I think that was in overtime as well.
I don't remember, but it was close. The Texans compete.
So now you're telling me the Texans got hard done by season. That's what you're telling me. They should have been up there.
I don't think
they could just close out.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of games there where you talk about. They could have won that Colts game. That Colts game was closer than it appeared. Commanders, could they have beaten the Commanders? Possibly. I just mean, all I'm trying to say is that's a professional team against college team. And Lad McConkey is not that guy.
Asked and answered.
And listen,
I'm sure Lad McConkey's not that guy.
I could be wrong. I could definitely easily
He's
be wrong.
wide receiver 1 for me. Just for his name.
Just
Lad McConkey.
Just my opinion. Just my opinion.
Okay.
If you match up player for player, there's some real issues there. The defense for Georgia would definitely cause that Texans team some issues, but the offensive line for the Texans would probably be okay. But yeah, I think offensively the Texans would embarrass. Defensively the Texans would embarrass them. I don't think Georgia would score much on them.
Okay.
Takeaways would be a real problem for stats.
You got told.
I got lawyered.
Yeah. Like I said, this is just my opinion. I don't necessarily know. You could
Dami,
easily be right.
Save me.
You got some strong opinions there.
I just think, it would be a really tough game for the Bulldogs. But I mean, if they would allow it to happen, I'd love to see it. But those are some kids playing professionals, and they just wouldn't allow them to get beat up like that.
Dami, what else you got for us?
So I've got some of the best draft picks to come in the 22 season. Sorry, not to come, that I've actually played. So I would say that the top picks that actually worked out really well for their respective teams. The cornerback Sauce Gardner for the Jets.
Sauce?
I don't actually know what his first name is, but they just call him Sauce.
Ahmad
Sauce Gardner.
It's Ahmad Gardner.
His name's Sauce.
Sauce.
Maybe because he's got the sauce.
He's got that special sauce.
Yeah,
I love it.
He's got that special
it wasn't
sauce.
too far of a
He's
push,
a success
bro.
in the chat.
These days, man.
He was graded as a top 5 in his position in the NFL in his first season. That's huge.
That's
That
Sauce.
doesn't really.
He's got that sauce.
That sauce is fire.
He's got that special sauce. He's that guy.
He's
that
special
guy.
Okay,
sauce.
I'll take it back.
He's that guy. It's a good
I'll
name.
take it back, yeah.
It's a good name.
Another one for the Jets, wide receiver Garrett Wilson.
Just before you move on, you could have easily believed that was his first name as well, couldn't you?
100%.
Someone could have easily called him Sauce.
100%.
Oh,
You just spoke about Lad McConkey.
DeForest Buckner.
DeForest Buckner.
Some great names.
Oh.
That's a great name.
Hingle the
So,
Krugerberg.
I just hear another future segment.
Yeah.
There we go.
The pump segment.
We've also got wide receiver George Pickens for the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good pickup.
Yeah.
George Pickens, he looks good.
Yeah, and the linebacker Trayvon Walker for the Jaguars.
You mentioned Garrett Wilson as well.
Yeah.
That's a really big pickup for the
Yeah.
Jets. If they can get quarterback right, Garrett Wilson made some really big catches down the stretch. That 7 and 10 is
That's the thing
big
with
on
the Jets.
him.
The Jets actually had a really good draft.
Oh, they
It's just-
did. They also had the running back Brees Hall.
Yeah, like
So,
their defensive side as well.
Yeah.
Very impressive, but
And on the offensive side, they had rookies who actually did well.
Yeah.
And they finished with a 7-10 record, but that's because in the second half of the season they just completely fell off.
Yeah.
And that was because of the quarterback play. It's not because of the rest of the team. Their defense was unreal
If
this
they
year.
plugged that quarterback problem,
Yeah.
there could be.
They could be a 500 team.
Oh.
They could be above 500 next season.
100%.
That would not be shocking. That defense is for real.
Yeah.
It even surprised me if they went for a Jimmy or something. Yeah.
But if Mike White, Jimmy Garoppolo was a very real
I
thought
think
process for them. But Mike White could even be that guy. It just that injury. Does he come back and play as well?
Yeah.
They definitely need to protect him better.
Yeah. Derek Carr could be a shout.
Derek Carr might be a very legitimate.
He's a solid
shout for them.
quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got the running back Isaiah Pacheco for the Chiefs,
Huge.
who basically replaced Clyde Edwards-Helaire,
He's
who
taking
got injured. Taking his spot literally. You've got cornerback Jack Jones for the Patriots, who did a very good job this year.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire's going.
Really?
Yeah, they're not going to keep him there. Isaiah Pacheco, they're not going to have to pay.
And they've got McKinnon scoring touchdowns every week as well.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire is
Yeah.
someone that they, if they ever have to pay him, they'll move him because Isaiah Pacheco, they're not going to have to pay for years. So that's someone, they're happy.
When you say they're not going to have to pay, you mean pay big money?
Yeah, so when you're on your rookie contract, you don't have to get paid for a significant amount of time. So that's why you talk about, that is why it's really common that teams make deep playoff runs when their quarterback is often actually in their second or third year when you haven't paid him much.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow's a great example. They're not paying Joe Burrow all that much.
He's this summer he'll probably get a big.
He'll get a big
contract.
contract. They'll pay him this year, probably almost certainly. But it's really common that teams that aren't paying their quarterback big money do deep runs into the playoffs because they use their money elsewhere. Perfect example is the 49ers. Mr. Irrelevant is getting no money.
700k.
700k
That's
is
his wage.
crazy.
I mean, I'd still take 700k. But in comparison to how quarterbacks paid, it's nothing.
So all that money is being spread about. Think about that. Dak Prescott's getting like 40 million.
Ooh. Yeah.
Is Brock Purdy significantly worse than Dak Prescott this year?
Probably not.
Yeah, but he hasn't got the same hips though.
Those hips.
Don't lie.
Oh man.
The hips and the elbows.
Yeah.
How's it go?
Oh my god.
Anyway, back to what I was saying. I like Garrett Wilson. Yeah. I think he's a legitimate number one receiver on almost any team.
Yeah. And also there have been loads more successful rookies that were picked out of the draft. But one just to mention as well is the quarterback Kenny Pickett for the Steelers. He looks like the quarterback of the future for the Steelers for at least the next 2-3 years.
I'm still not sure about him.
Really?
I'm still not sure about him, but a lot of people have been saying some good things about him. But from what I see, I'm still not sure.
Well,
but
he led them to a winning record. That's all you can ask for as a rookie. So
listen, he's clearly not bad, but I don't know if he's that guy or if he's just a guy.
Yeah, he's just a guy, and it's just Mike Tomlin's coaching. Yeah,
because Mike Tomlin has brought some players through.
Yes, he has. Yeah, and
more defensively, but
the Steelers' defense it will always be good.
I think this is the other thing is we talk about where you spend your money, and Mike Tomlin is a defensive coach. He will always spend his money and have his focus on the defensive side of the ball. When have they really had really exceptional offensive talent apart from Antonio Brown?
Yeah.
Ben Roethlisberger was that guy who'd been there a really long time, but he definitely started to drop off, and they really didn't do much about it. They didn't really give him a huge amount of help, again, apart from Antonio Brown. Juju Smith-Schuster was like, people were talking like that's their number one target. He's now what choice in Kansas City?
He's wide receiver 1, but he's not the first receiver. It's Travis Kelce.
This is what I mean. Like their first choice is Travis Kelce as a tight end. Yeah. Juju's maybe their second target, who's their number one receiver, but Valdez-Scantling's getting targets. Yeah. Sky Moore's getting targets. They're spreading the ball around.
Yeah, they are.
They've not really got anyone other than Travis Kelce who's like, that's the guy that we're going to throw to. So And he was their main guy in Pittsburgh. So
yeah, he was. Yeah.
this is the thing. But now they've got George Pickens.
Yeah.
Could Kenny Pickett be that guy? Question mark.
And they've got Najee Harris in the backfield. So
yeah, Najee Harris is clearly good. He can catch. He can catch and play.
Yeah. So that was it in terms of picks, and then I just wanted to point out a few key moments of the season. Well, moments that I thought were key in the season. So Tua getting taken to hospital with concussion on 2 or 3 separate occasions. That was massive. That was massive for the Dolphins because they were actually in fine form. Him, Tyreek, and Jalen Waddle, they were in fine form, but then he got his concussion. He had to sit out a couple of games afterwards, and the Dolphins never really looked the same team after that.
I thought they were going to win the division at one point.
Yeah,
that was very legitimate.
Yeah, I mean, after they beat the Bills in Miami, you were thinking, oh, wow, this is literally a pick'em between the Bills and the Dolphins.
Yeah.
And then Tua got his concussions, and then,
Concussions are a problem in the NFL, man.
It really is. Skylar Thompson ended up playing minutes. That's not something you ever want to have.
Yeah, and Teddy, he played, but then he got injured as soon as he started playing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
The Chiefs losing to the Bengals for the 3rd straight time in the calendar year on December 4th. It's the first time in Mahomes' professional career he's lost to any team 3 times in a row.
It goes back to what you were saying before, where people were talking about who's going to be the better quarterback. I think Trevor Lawrence.
Division as well.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence is going to come into that conversation, I think, in the next year or two.
Yeah.
But for right now, it's
that conference is scary. The quarterback talent in that conference.
But surely the 2 that will be spoken about the most are Mahomes and Burrow because they're playing each other so much.
Then you got Josh Allen.
You got Josh Allen.
You got Trevor Lawrence
Allen.
building exciting stuff there.
Wow. Your boy Herbert for the Chargers.
Like, Josh Allen without Brian Daboll looks like a different quarterback, though.
Yeah, he does.
Doesn't look quite the same guy. I don't know. I don't know. He just doesn't look the same guy.
I mean, he didn't have Daboll. He didn't look like the same guy. They still had a 13-3 record. So, there was a bit of a fall off, but it wasn't that much.
No, but it'd be interesting to see what happens next year. Another year without Daboll. What happens if they come up against the Chiefs again at some point?
That's always going to be there.
Yeah, I just don't see them challenging the Chiefs right now in any real respect at all.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Lamar Jackson getting injured in Week 13 against the Broncos when Baltimore were top of the AFC North. Like I alluded to earlier, they would then go on to finish 2nd in their division, 2.5 games behind the Bengals. Yeah. So that was a massive drop off just by losing Lamar Jackson. Nathaniel Hackett was sacked as the Broncos coach on December the 26th, the day after Christmas.
That's cold.
Yeah.
Cold.
Well, the team had a 4-11 record and they lost 51-14 to the Rams.
And the Rams dropped off after the Super Bowl win. But they knew that was going to happen.
Yeah,
you knew that was going to happen. They spent to win the Super Bowl. Yeah. That's what happened. They sold out to win the Super Bowl. And it worked. But imagine it hadn't. Imagine they hadn't won. Because Burrow could have won that game. Bengals could have won that game.
It would have been an interesting boardroom after that.
It's even the same people.
And my last key moment, I think it's probably the biggest moment of the NFL season, is Damar Hamlin. The injury on January 2nd. So he collapsed after being tackled after tackling T. Higgins, and he required immediate medical treatment. It was later found out he suffered a cardiac arrest. But his heartbeat was restored on the field. After 9 days, he was actually discharged, and then he was left to rehabilitate at home.
Crazy.
Of course, this actually impacted the seedings because the Bengals and the Bills matchup. The game had to be suspended, but at the time, the Bills were the 1 seed, and the Bengals were the 3 seed. And if the Bills had won, beaten the Bengals and then just won out the rest of their games, they would have finished as the 1 seed. But if the Bengals had beaten the Bills, there was still an outside chance that they could finish as the 1 seed. But because the NFL was like, there's no time in the season to play this game, they just cancelled the game, and then it ended up that the Bills finished 2nd in the conference, and the Chiefs got the 1 seed, and the 1 seed's massive because you get the bye, and you also get the home playoff games.
Yeah.
Bengals got screwed.
Yeah, they did.
Bengals got screwed. They were winning that game as well.
Yeah, they were. I mean, it was what was the score? Was it like
They
7-3?
they were up 7,
Yeah.
and they were driving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing you can do.
Yeah, there's
no,
nothing you can do.
But the team that got screwed the most is the Bengals, and there was an argument to be had that should their game have been played at a neutral field rather than them having to go and play.
Yeah.
I get it, but I mean, it's a difficult one, so what does the league do? But the argument could be made that they should have played their game at a neutral field.
Yeah. So that's it for key moments. And then I want to ask you guys, but I'm going to start myself. So in terms of the surprise team of the year, I think my surprise team of the year is either the Steelers or the Jets. For me, the Steelers having a winning record with Kenny Pickett as their quarterback, and even them losing Chase Claypool in the middle of the season, and still to finish with a winning record, I think that's pretty amazing. The Jets, for how they started, because nobody expected them to be that good, and even for their rookies to be that good. And then, so Kriski, start with you. Who's your surprise team of the year?
Got to go with the underdogs, doesn't he?
Yeah, of course he does.
No, I do like the idea of Jets, but they were just so hit and miss, I think, throughout the season a little bit. And I think maybe the Jags, just because I think, no, I don't think I saw them step up that much this season. Especially with Trevor, I thought that it maybe been another 2 years until they actually start seeing a bit of all that groundwork going. But so I think either them. No, I'm going to stick with the Jags. I think the Jags were a bit of a surprise, and it's good to actually see them make the playoffs in the end.
Okay, what about you, Bits?
I'll go with the Jets.
Okay, cool.
Underdogs.
Yeah,
Rookie players.
they definitely were
playing.
underdogs, especially in that division. They definitely were underdogs. I mean,
Yeah.
they did finish last,
Yeah.
but they did better than most people would expect.
Yeah, exactly.
So
It was a soft last.
Yeah. It's not hard last like this.
That's poor Texans.
That's a last.
and you, Ben?
I was going to say the Jags as well.
Yeah.
I think that, like I said earlier, that 9-8 record really doesn't do them justice.
Yeah.
Could have very easily been another couple of wins in there, and then we're talking about 11-6 team, and that's a team right there.
Yeah.
I think they're playing like an 11-6, 12-5 team right now. So I think probably the Jags, but if we're gonna throw another team in the hat in there, is maybe the Patriots. I think originally I probably had them at the start of the season coming in last. I thought the Jets would have a good year, but I thought that the Patriots would have a really tough year. But actually, defense really held up.
Yeah.
They locked some teams down as they always do. But I thought they were still going to get beaten a few more times. But 8-9 is pretty solid for them in the end. Coming up against the Bills, resurgent Dolphins, and the Jets team that are actually playing, 8-9 is a good record for them.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last one is the worst team of the year, or the team that you're most disappointed in. For me, it's either the Browns or the Colts. For the Browns, I thought Deshaun Watson coming in, it might lead them to have a better record than they did. But also the Colts came in with Frank Reich, who was meant to be a really good coach. They had your boy Matt Ryan come in. I thought they were going to do better. They were only one game away the previous season from actually making the playoffs. And then Carson Wentz had his meltdown. So I thought, okay, Matt Ryan might come in, steady hand, won't turn the ball over, and they'll make it to the playoffs. And then where did they finish again? It was 4-12 record, third in the AFC South. So that for me is the most disappointing two teams, I would say. What about you?
Did we mention the Broncos earlier?
Broncos is the most obvious.
I'd say you kind of gamble a lot on that, and I think Russell's not done themselves justice. They've paid themselves in glory there, I think. So I would probably say the Broncos, just because they've traded their whole future to try and really build around that, and it's just not panned out at all.
I'll jump on board with that.
It was a rough year for the Broncos. It was a rough year.
I think we're laying out all the teams, so a few options here. We've got Broncos, we've got Raiders, we've got Browns.
Yeah.
Colts, Titans.
Yeah.
There's a few options there. So originally probably would have had the Titans being kind of maybe a 10-win team, ended up being a 7-win team. I think it's probably got to be the Colts or the Broncos. You've already said Broncos. I think it's got to be the Colts, right?
Yeah,
you mentioned the Colts, but Broncos had a particularly bad season, but the Colts really.
Yeah.
They were touted as it's going to be between them and the Titans. No one was really talking about the Jags, so I think that's why I said Jags were the surprise team.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the opposite, the flip side of that, is because the Colts just didn't compete.
Yeah.
There were some really interesting results that they had there, but just
And
almost...
didn't they set the manager halfway through as well?
Jeff Saturday took over.
Yeah.
So I don't really understand how Jeff Saturday took over. I think one of the things, one of the jokes I heard was, did he just happen to be in the city at the time they were recruiting? And they just, I just don't. It just seemed like a very odd bunch of choices.
Yeah.
You know, they've never really been the same team since Frank Reich, and I think it's a really weird one for me. 4-12, and do we even see them getting better next year? I'm not even sure.
No.
What are they even going to do?
Yeah.
So
it's another rebuild for them, really.
Right? How do you go from rebuild to then starting to then rebuilding again?
It's a mess.
It's a tough situation.
Yeah.
Titans are going to be interesting next year. Jags are going to blow out that division next year. Could the Texans even start competing again? As I mentioned earlier, I think the Texans are starting to get better. Yeah. They were in a bunch of games at the end there. They'd lost their season and really competed in the last couple of games. So, Colts for me.
That's the thing. Yeah. The AFC's in a very good place, really.
Yeah.
No, I think you've got some very good teams, and then you've got some teams that have got a lot of work to do. So, yeah.
I mean, I feel like the AFC has the better quarterbacking talent. Overall. So it's tough for any team that doesn't have their future or their starting quarterback or their franchise quarterback, so to say. It's really tough. If you don't have that now,
it's tough. Yeah,
you're gonna have to find that in the draft, and apart from maybe the top 3 quarterbacks going in the next draft, you don't really see it.
Even then, I'm not sure about this draft class coming up either.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't excite me as it did. The 2 years ago one.
No, exactly. Anyway, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I think we can.
Yeah, wrap up there.
Wrap up there, and then we'll dig into the NFC next week.
Amazing. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks very much.
All right.
See you guys.